later. You can also go through the slideshow. Yes, we're taking risks in what you're learning. And sometimes, that learning curve can be daunting, but together we've got this. And also, please, again, be mindful of other learners, making sure your mic is off. And my friends Lori and Allison are manning the chat because I'm not able to multitask that way. So if you have questions, just type it into that chat area and my friends will get to it. And of course, teachers, you can respond to each other as well. So all of these blue highlighted topics we are going to cover. And you can think of this as a table of contents that is interactive, because if you click on that topic, it will take you directly to the slides covering that topic. And these are our main objectives. So today you're going to learn how to navigate your Seesaw dashboard. You're going to learn how to find and post assignments. You're going to learn how to monitor your students' progress and where to receive support. So the nuts and bolts, just so you know, the sequencing of this, I'm mostly going to be doing an uninterrupted show and tell for the sake of time. This is my first time doing this. We might change the format when I do this again on Wednesday and again on Friday, but for now, it's mostly going to be a show and tell. There might be some do now time at the end, and that way I can get to questions in the chat. But also know that the slide deck is only going to be used for this first part of this webinar. I'm going to be jumping directly into my Seesaw account later. So consider these slides your notes. You do not have to take any notes whatsoever. Everything is covered. And again, I have ancillary videos with just the specific topics chunked out for you. And it's made as a standalone reference. So here we go. What is different about learning at home? I think everyone kind of already knows and has been assaulted by it immediately. So just that work-life balance, screen overload, so many different challenges, but amid that, there is so much beauty because we are going to be able to meet students where they're at and allow them to demonstrate mastery where they're at in learning that it's not going to be happening all at the same time. So you're going to be hearing the word asynchronous learning. That's where the learning is going on for students at different paces depending on their mastery. One point here on this slide, most important to me, is that we are not trying to replicate the school day. That's not our goal here. Students cannot take on that much, parents cannot take on that much, and most importantly, you can't be responsible for delivering 6 hours of content. So we can provide them with lots of activities that they can take on, and a learning management platform at Seesaw will actually put that ability in students and families' hands. You can you are going to be able to assign work, but if families want to take on more, they will be able to do that. Okay, so first of all, one of the most basic skills that we're going to need is making sure that you know how to get links to your students. And number one, it's going to be with Clever. And in the left-hand corner, if you've never seen a student use their Clever QR badge, I'm praying that you have, but it's possible in kindergarten and first grade. Some students haven't yet. There's a little video of how students use their Clever badges to log in. And you're going to find the extra links to any videos or any references in the notes section of the slide deck. So Clever, as you all know, is the hub for all of our students' activities. Clever does not have a Seesaw link in it, so we must put it there. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Just as our K through 2 students use a Clever badge to sign into Clever, Seesaw has its own little badge that they're going to use to log in. So I took some screenshots just to demonstrate. So in your Clever page, you would click on the shared with your students. Whoops, let me go back to that. Click on the shared with your students page. And then from there, you are going to add the Seesaw link. So in the bottom right-hand corner of your Clever portal, you would click add, you would press the link, And I've pasted here the link that you're going to put in. So you can just copy this and put this directly into your Clever link space. And then you're going to type in Seesaw. And what I recommend that you add is a dash. So for this example, Ms. Jones Seesaw put a dash QR login. And that information QR login lets parents and kids know as their reminder that they're going to have a little badge that they're going to use. The category, I think the default says newly added. And then select one of these icons. And then you're going to click add link. If you've completed all those steps, then you're all done and you're going to see an icon like this. At the end of the presentation, if there's time, I will go back and demonstrate this live. But just for the sake of getting in to the Seesaw content, I'm just going to let these slides kind of stand alone and you can go back and go through those resources later. So when students click that link, this is what they will see on their end. And yes, there is a text code that you could give students, but it is 12 symbols long, and I don't think that makes any sense for our kindergarten and first grade students. If for some reason a parent does not have the ability to get an image from you that you send via email or text, then giving them that sequence would make sense, but otherwise you're going to be scanning their QR, their separate Seesaw QR badge. So you might ask, how are you going to get these Clever badges to families? How are you going to get the Seesaw badges to families if they don't have them? So I have linked a separate slide deck that shows exactly how to do that. Essentially, you would be printing out the Clever badges, and then you would be either taking a picture of it with your phone to text message to parents, or you could download the individual files. And again, I will go back to this at the end after I've gone over the Clever information. But if you are in the slide deck and you click on this little link, it will take you directly to that resource on how to send the Clever QR badges to families. And again, I think the easiest method is when you go into Clever. Actually, I'll just go ahead and click on that because this is very important. I should not skip over this. So these are the two resources or the two methods. You could text message them or you could email the screenshot. And the way it works, you would select, classes. You could either download the class set of badges, and that would be best if you have just the ability to text message parents with a picture. If you are going to be emailing it, then you could download each badge individually. When you download that badge, it's going to show up at the bottom of your screen. And then just for the sake of giving you an example, I would take my cell phone, I would just focus it right over this particular student's QR code, and then I would text message that to a parent. And the other way to do it is to take a screenshot. I'm going to go back into my other presentation. So if you've never taken screenshots before, I made a tutorial on how to do that as well. It's a little YouTube video. And again, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over that right at this moment, but feel free to come to our office hours from 10 to 11 in the morning and bug me about how to take screenshots. Okay, so into Seesaw Basics. We're going to pop into my Seesaw account in just a moment, but before we do, I want to give you an overview of what you will be looking at. So first off, we're going to be looking at the settings in my account. And the settings are designated by this little wrench icon. When you click on that, that's where you will see all of the options for whoops, for your class management. The student badges are going to be found here where they say get home learning codes. And just like in Clever, you're going to be able to download those. The different actions, and there are 3, and for posting assignments, for example, or sending announcements to parents or students, that would be where this little add button here is. And immediately when you go into your dashboard, the default view is going to be on this stream. It's called the journal. It's the stream of all of the student submissions that you have approved. Next to that, you will be able to view student work that's submitted in the activity section. The inbox is where you can either compose or read student and parent messages. And probably most important, down here at the bottom, yes, the help. It is always there, that little question mark bubble. You can just type in whatever topic you're interested in, and a little assistant will pop up and suggest to you some topics for you to review. All right, so from here on out, I'm going to be in my Seesaw account. So I am just going to remind you that the slides that follow are just for the folks that, you know, when this is all over, you want to go back and review particular sections. All of the topics are going to be covered in very short videos with extra notes and links for you. And at this point, I'm going to have you split your screen if you'd like. So how you're going to do that is, so at the very beginning, I showed having this Google Meet pinned, and I'm going to show that again in case folks joined a little late. So I'm going to take this Google Meet tab. I'm going to hover my cursor over it. I'm going to select pin. So that's going to stay there. I'm not going to lose it. Now I'm going to open up another tab, and I've already done this. This is my Seesaw tab. This is my Seesaw dashboard. Now I want to be able to see 2 things at once, or you might want to do that. So I'm going to pull out this tab. I'm just hovering my cursor. I'm pressing down. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to go into the upper right-hand corner. See, there's a little square there. So I can resize this so it's half the size of my screen. I'm just going to pull that here. Now I'm going to go over to my main page here. I'm going to do the same thing. So you might have to play with resizing it a bit. But if you do this, you will be able to see both what I'm doing and look at your own teacher dashboard at the same time. All right, so I'm not going to split my screen, but that might be one way that you can kind of manage following what I'm doing, but also kind of take a look at your own. If that's too much, please just follow me as your guide. All right, so I'm going to go right into my account. So as you just saw in the picture before, this is my dashboard. And we're going to be going over some of the settings that I found are really important from the get-go. So again, here's my little wrench in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to click on that. So first of all, I want you to go down to where it says Student Sign-In Mode. You want to make sure that it's on one-to-one devices. There are different options here. Students are not signing in with their email or their Google. If this was in your classroom and they were sharing devices, that might be appropriate. But for remote learning, we are just going to select one-to-one. So make sure it says that right there. Then going down, the next thing, let's see, actually, where's manage? Oh, here, manage teachers. So I want you to click on that. Or just, again, watch what I'm doing. So under manage teachers, I'm going to highly recommend that you add your principal's email address. It's okay if they do not have an account yet. They will get directed to create an account. The reason for this is because we're going to be receiving directives at some point from the union and our district administrators on the expectations for communication between teachers and principals. So principals kind of know how you're communicating with students, what types of assignments you are creating, and what students are participating, and how you're communicating with parents. By sharing your Seesaw classroom with your principal, you are taking care of all of the communication needs with your admin. They will be able to look into your classroom at any time and see that, yes, you've sent notes to families. Yes, you've sent notes to students. Yes, you've assigned work to students. And they can also see if students are responding back. Bottom line is, you're covering your end of your responsibility to provide remote learning experiences to your students. So where it says teacher email address, you would put in your principal's email address and just click invite teacher. They will get directions on what to do next. Now, if there are any other teachers that you share instructional responsibilities with, for example, if a student has an RSP teacher that's also going to be using Seesaw, or you do ELD instruction, there are many different configurations. Any other teacher can be added there. Okay, so going on. Other recommended class settings. Here, students' likes and comments. Please, I would highly recommend that you start off by not enabling student likes. I think we found from social media how kind of destructive that can be. It's kind of cool at first, but students are here performing their own work, and I'm going to recommend at some point, if you do want to enable student comments, you can still have this marked green that you will enable them, but please do moderate them so students can't just type whatever they want or comment and obviously create a space for cyberbullying. So in fact, if you wanted to, you can completely turn that off. But again, I'm going to leave that up to your discretion. The other settings that you might want to toggle with, new items requiring approval. Since students are able to draw and submit artwork, even though, yes, I'm talking about our little ones, you never know what they might want to draw or write. I suggest that you be the one that approving anything that they submit before it is seen, if you're going to allow that on your site. Also, if you want students to resubmit any work, you're going to enable item editing. And I think the default for this was off, so I'm showing you these because I turned them on. Okay, so next thing, the class settings. Let's see, I'm gonna, for managing skills, actually, I think I want to go over managing folders. Yeah, so I think that as we are providing more and more content to our students, that we're going to want to enable both students and ourselves to really organize the work. And so there are no pre-made folders for these subjects. I made all of these particular folders. And you can actually teach students to categorize their work. So in their own learning journal or their portfolio, they will have samples from each of the core curricular areas. And the way you create a folder is you just click at the bottom, you select whatever color you want, and then you would just title it. So right now, I just have a folder for all of the main areas that I'm going to be using for my assignments. So those are the basics. Those are the settings that I found were the most important. So already we've gone over setting up your free teacher account. We've gone over how students are going to access the link to Seesaw, and we've gone over the basic settings. Now, what we're going to do next is add students. So what you're going to do at the bottom is just click the plus mark where it says students, and then you can either just type them in one by one, or if you have a list, you can cut and paste student 2. There we go. I already had some students, so I've got more. And this is an example of what parents would need to get in order for their child to log in. And I'm going to go over that in just a moment. So as you can see down here, this is my sample classroom. I don't have a lot of students in it, but at some point you will be able to see all of your different students right there. So now, how are they going to log in? That's the big question, right? You got your students in. How do you get this information to parents? So up here, it says get home learning codes. Now, if you were using this in the classroom, typically the way this worked was that there was one class code, and then students just used that class code and then chose their name. It's being done differently now for home learning. Because otherwise kids could hypothetically select any student's login icon and just pretend they're that kid. So now every single student is going to get their own home learning code. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the home learning code, and you want to select print codes. If you select download codes, it's going to give you a spreadsheet that has like a 12 sequence typable code, and that's not what you want. You want the QR codes. So select print codes. And here, this is going to open up. So each student is going to have a page that looks like this. So student 1's home learning code. And this is the little sequence that is telling you, I don't think that this is going to be helpful for our kindergarten and first grade students. All they need is this QR code. And if you take your cell phone and you snap a picture of this QR code and you just, send it to a parent, either via phone or phone number or via email, then they will be able to just scan it from the phone right on the student's device. So I have tried that. I took a picture of it with my cell phone, then I just displayed that photo on my cell phone, held it up to the camera on my laptop, and I was able to log into Seesaw as a student just fine. Now, for those of you that teach DLI or you have Spanish-speaking parents, there's also a link here, and it has all of the same instructions in Spanish. It's not going to show that student's particular code. It's just giving the directions to the parent in Spanish. Okay, so those are the home learning codes. Now, you can send, you can get the individual home learning code PDFs. So if I click, let's see, I think it's under Manage Students. Okay, I'm going to find that later, but I think I know that there's a way to log to get an individual PDF for each of the students, but for now, to get all of them, it would be under Get the Home Learning Codes, and they would download all of them at one time. Okay, so moving on. How are you going to communicate with families in Seesaw? So you'll notice over here, there's my inbox. Now I can add families information here at the bottom of my screen, the bottom right. I'm going to click on that. So I can add a phone number here if that's all I've got. And then what will happen is that parent will get a text message letting them know that they've been invited to their students to join their student Seesaw classroom. And then they will have to sign up. And at that point, they will enter an email. So for example, on my test student case, I had put in my cell phone number, and then when I clicked on the link that I got in my cell phone, I was directed to create an account using an email address, and parents can specify whatever email address that they like for that. Okay, so going back, that's how you're going to invite your families. And then one thing to note, if your parents are Spanish speakers, is that when you send them notices, they will have the option to get it translated. So for example, if a parent's options or language settings on their computer are for Spanish, then they will have the ability, they'll have a little button that says translate it. I don't have it on my screen because my computer is set to English, but just like Class Dojo or Remind, or some of our other communication tools, they have those translate features available. So this is a message that I just sent. I'll go ahead and click edit announcement. So you can see that I have the option, if I wanted here, I could add a photo, a drawing, a video, I could send a resource link. So for example, if you wanted to send parents the link to the e-learning website, the parent resources, I could paste in a URL there. I can upload, and I could type in another note if I wanted to. So those are the different options for the announcements that you send. And then once you send an announcement, and you do that by clicking add, and you would send an announcement, communication back and forth is in that same inbox tab. You would just click on where it says notifications. So I have some notifications here. Number one, it's telling me that a student has some submitted work that I have not yet approved, and I did that on purpose. We're going to go over that later. And the messages, I had messages from the supposed parent. So what is my child working on today? And I submitted just a post back reading. So any parent messages you would be able to see in that box. And that family communication is super important. I can't underscore that enough. You know, helping parents learn about home learning routines, giving them suggestions about providing their child with a distraction-free space for learning, and completing their assignments, giving them positive feedback. We're really going to be coaching parents, and sending parents announcements here in Seesaw is the perfect way to do that. So now let's get into how Seesaw actually works and how you're going to assign activities. So first of all, we're going to be looking at the two options for assignments. So I'm going to go to the plus sign, and I'm going to click Assign Activity. The default view is what's in my library. So if you're a new Seesaw user, this is probably completely blank for you, except for maybe this Create New Activity or Need Ideas, Browse the Community Library. I've already been adding to mine. Now you have two options for creating activities for students. One is to create the new activities from scratch. And the second is by finding things in the community library. So for the sake of this basics training, I'm going to go over using what has already been made for you. Creating new activities will be in the 2.0, because I can tell you that what is in the community set of assignments is more than what you will need for probably the next month. So I'm going to switch over from where it says My Library to where it says Community. And so you can see I had designated my classroom as a second grade classroom. If you needed to differentiate for your students, so say I have some students working at a third grade level, I have some students working at a first grade level, I could see assignments ranging all the way up to 12th grade and all the way down to pre-K if I wanted to. But for now, I'm going to stick with second grade. And here, if you click on the drop-down menu, you can see that every subject that you would want to cover in your typical classroom day has an activity probably already made in Seesaw. I'm just going to click all for now. Rather than just filtering out some of these subjects, as you can see, there are already some at the bottom. If I can scroll down, here we go. Outdoor scavenger hunt, virtual field trip to the farm, animal research. Look at all of these wonderful different activities that I can assign. I'm just going to have you start with the block in the middle. So whatever grade you selected, you should have like getting started with Seesaw in your grade level, remote learning for your grade level, and then home learning ideas. Click on the middle box. Click where it says remote learning. They've already got 12 activities there for you. And so this is exactly where I'd start. Just start with these 12, because if you look at what they've already curated for you, they have an activity that is going to have kids making something. It's going to have kids reading and retelling a book. It's going to cover growth mindset, family interview, writing. This is covering pretty much all of the basics of your curriculum. And of course, this can be edited, but I would just start with some of these for now. So what you're going to do is you would just, if you see an activity that you like, you just hover over the little heart at the top. Here, I'll go ahead and yeah, I can add that to my collection. Let me do one that I haven't hearted already. So the power of yet. I'm going to go ahead and hover on that, click the heart. Now look at the bottom. It says that it's been saved to my library. And right now I have the option to assign that to my class. So I'm going to click on assign to class. One thing I want to note, you'll see on the left-hand corner, it says schedule. You cannot schedule these. We are using the free basic Seesaw accounts. They don't allow us to schedule. So what I recommend that you do is you save all of the assignments that you like by just clicking the heart, and then don't assign a particular activity until you actually want students to see it on their activities to-do list, because otherwise you will overwhelm kids with too many activities. So I'm just going to assign this particular activity to my class. And I'm going to view that activity right now. There it is. Now notice all of the directions are there for me. Now, later on after spring break, later on the school year, when I provide a Seesaw 2.0 webinar, I'll show you how to create these from scratch. But for now, I think what you might want to do is know how to edit these, particularly if you're a DLI or Spanish teacher. So I'm going to click here on the bottom on the 3 dots where it says edit activity. So now it's made a copy for you, your own copy. You can name it whatever you want. And this is where if you are a DLI teacher and you want to have the instructions in Spanish or in Spanish and in English, you can copy the text, go into Google Translate. So Google Translate. It's my English. Oops, let me paste it. Oh, it didn't paste it. But anyway, you can get it. I will go ahead. I would copy and paste it there and then get the translation in Spanish. I guess I didn't copy my text, but you get the idea. I'd get the translation and put it in there. The same thing for any of these directions. Now, I want you to notice that there is also an audio, and I can't play it because right now my while I'm presenting, I cannot play an outside sound source, but all of these different directions and notifications and responses, you have audio options. So if I click that, it would be a read aloud of the directions, which is perfect for kinder and first grade students. Now, if you're a DLI teacher, again, you can delete this. So you can delete the one that's pre-made. You would click add voice instructions, and then you would create your own recording in Spanish. And if you wanted to add any other activities, so for example, down here, there's a little template already for students to use because they're going to draw on top of it. You have options to do that, to add other templates. The other thing I wanted to show you is where it says edit. If you wanted to assign to only some of your students, here is where you could just select only the students that you'd want this assignment to go to. So say you're going to modify, or say you're just going to, this is only appropriate for half your students, just select the students that it's good for, and then you're done. The other options are for adding standards links, and most of them are already linked in those pre-made activities, which I think is lovely. And I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, if you wanted to, you could also edit. And so I'm going to say that this assignment is probably, say it's in, this would be in like community building, and I don't have that yet, but I'm going to put it in my social sciences folder. Whoops. I could create a new folder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just save it. So all of the activities, even though they're pre-made, you can edit them by clicking on the 3 dots and selecting edit activity. Similarly, if you change your mind, you can also delete the activity. All right, so again, I'm going to recommend that to get started, assigning activities, you click on the plus sign, click on assign activity, switch the tab from My Library to Community if you're searching for activities. Click on the remote learning for your grade level. Look at those particular activities. Save the ones that you like to your library. I don't have to assign it to my class right this second. I can find it later by clicking on My Library. And here are all of the assignments that I have liked. Okay, so now I want to go and show you what you need to do to preview their work. So in my inbox, or actually, I think on my, so one thing I should go over, the journal is basically the stream. That's the default page that you're going to see when you log into your account on Seesaw. It's the stream of approved work. The other place to see students' work is on the Activities tab here. These are all of the assignments that I have already created. And like this one will tell me one student already did this one. And there's another one student already did this one. This is the assignment that I put in and kind of practiced with. Oh, and this one, retelling a favorite book. And this is telling me right now there's one response waiting for teacher approval. You will also see notifications of student responses here on the journal tab. So this is saying there's something that's not approved. I'm going to review it. So there's 2 places. You'll get a notification in your journal. You'll get a notification in your inbox, or you can click on the activity and go to that assignment, and you're going to click on it and the response waiting for my approval. And here it is. So these are all my students, and I'm going to go take a look at it. I'm going to review it. Oh, wow, look. My student is reading Mathematical Mindsets by Joe Bowler. And you'll notice I used a little marker tool. I drew little hearts. I put in some text. Students have options, just like you have options, as I showed earlier, when you are creating announcements for parents, of making videos, of doing voiceovers, of using drawing tools. Students have all of those options at their disposal. So you might see students having a video here or having made a drawing. Now, before I approve it, so there are some things that I can do here. Well, first of all, I'm going to like it because I'm the teacher. I've enabled that for me, and I can comment on it. And here's the cool thing. I can type a note on it. This is awesome. I can post it. I can also make a voice recording. So how wonderful is that? Your students are posting something and you can leave them a voice message with instructions. Now, in my settings, I had enabled them to go back in and resubmit. So if I wanted them to change something, like, you know, they needed to add more details, I could make a comment and they can go back in and change that. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and approve this. Okay, and I'm going to close that. So now you'll see when I go back to my stream, my journal page, this was the work that I just approved. Okay, and you'll notice here also where it's showing journal. Think of the journal as your student's portfolio. Right now, I'm in the class portfolio of submitted and approved work. Okay, these are all the assignments that I had submitted. You can see there's some different options here. I was playing with different content. This one is perfect for ELD. It's using positional words. And I made a video for that submission. And unfortunately, I can't show you that because you won't be able to hear it because I'm using the mic to present. But if I wanted to see all of the items in a student's portfolio, I would just click on that student. And this is all of the work that that student has submitted. Okay. So now we've covered pretty much all the basics. And I want to let you know, like this little note here that I wrote that says, "Hi, teacher." It's because on students' dashboard, they're going to have that journal and they can add whatever they want to it. So they could add a post to it. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and just, you know, if I were a parent and I felt that my student was, or my child was not, had completed all of their work and I wanted them to do more, I could go ahead and have the student just go to journal, and then for their activities, they would add a post, and then they could create a drawing, a video, again, any of the options that they have available. And then they could just post their own little random assignments or communications to you in their journal, and you would see it just like you see this little note that I drew. So that's an option for students. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the resources for you, and I'm going to go back to the presentation. So let me minimize that screen. And I'm going to go back to my table of contents, and I'm going to click on resources review. And there we go, slide 58. All right. So on slide 58, you will see that here's the main site for teachers that Seesaw made specifically with information to support you with remote learning. There's some FAQs, and they have some live webinars. Okay, so those are the troubleshooting sites that are going to be most important for you. But then I also went through their resources and I curated a few others. So this first one here, I know that I've just given you a whole bunch of new information, and I tried to keep it organized. But really the most important ideas to get started are on this one pager, How to for Teachers Getting Started with Home Learning. And if you click on it, there's a link that will take you directly to that Google document. Also at the bottom of the slide, so let me hover, let me pull this up a bit. You'll see that I have some links down there. Every time you see a little picture or a little video, I typically put the links also in the notes area, because sometimes I'm technologically challenged myself. And then I'm clicking and clicking on those little icons and I can't find the link. Just like right now, I can't drag my little screen down. Okay, I'm about to give up. Let me reset. Okay. Oh no. See? There we are. All right. So this next one, the Seesaw Introduction for Students. I think introducing this to students for the first time, in our classrooms, we would be able to project, we would be able to walk students through the dashboard, and I wasn't able in this presentation to show you the student end of it. So I want you to please, the next thing you do after you get everything set up and ready on your end is to walk through the introduction for students. And you might even want to share this link, and here it is down at the bottom, this PDF. You could share that introduction for students, and it explains what the journal is and what a portfolio of their learning is, and all of the different tools in Seesaw from the student perspective. And I didn't mention this, but I also recommend that just like I made myself a test student in my classroom, add yourself. You can call it test student or practice student or put in your name. Make yourself a student, get your own QR badge, practice signing in, and take a look at it from the student end. That's how I learned how to use it best. And then I also attached a different getting started guide. This is their guide that they would use if you were starting it up at the beginning of the school year. But I still felt that there's information here, some nice details that you might be ready for at a later time that I'm not covering now. All of the essential information that you need for your students and for yourself is covered in the remote learning basics that we've gone through today. But this getting started guide just has more. And let's see, that is pretty much it. Whew. I'm going to go back into the Google Meet, and I'm going to stop presenting my screen so you can see me. Stop presenting. Okay, and let's see. I see that there's a bunch of chat going on. Let me see if I can answer some questions.
Darcy?
Yes.
It's Allison. I've been keeping track of questions in the order that they came up. There are a lot. They've been coming through ever since you started. So if you want to go back up to the top, that's fine, or I can let you know. One question that came up a lot of times is where can people access this recording when it's over? Do you know the answer to that question?
I'm assuming that Lori Roberts is going to be posting them on the e-learning website. She's the keeper of all of the videos. It takes several hours to process. So this is not going to be available probably until 3 or 4 o'clock, and then we're going to get it up on the website. So again, I'm going to, let me grab the bit link for the presentation. Everything that I covered, literally in lockstep, in order, is in the presentation and in bite-sized chunk videos. So I'm going to go ahead because I noticed that there are some questions, because if you came in late, I didn't have the link on every single slide. It's bit.ly/WCC Seesaw1, all in lowercase. And again, every single topic I covered is going to be in that presentation with little videos demonstrating exactly where the items are on the dashboard.
And then before you jump into the questions, do you have a way to answer? So you have like 4 more minutes. Do you have a way to answer questions if I have a record of who asked them for people later on? Because it's more questions than you can answer in 4 minutes.
Yeah, so I was planning on copying and pasting the entire chat into a separate Google document and then going through the questions and looking for the common questions. So it's going to take me a little bit for sure to go through and look at the questions and answer them. And then I can post the answers to those questions in a separate document on the e-learning website. I will go ahead. So what I will do later on is I will post the answers to questions on that actual site where it says, where you saw the link to join. There'll just be a little Google Doc attached to that that says FAQ or session 1 questions answered.
Okay, and thanks. If you want to go ahead and answer anything you see, go for it.
Well, is there anything, can you guide me or?
Yeah, absolutely. I answered a bunch of them already. I think that One of the questions that I saw multiple times is, can students be in more than one Seesaw class? And I did see that the answer is yes, if you can just
Yes.
clarify that.
Yes. So students, if they are in more than one Seesaw class, they're going to have a different QR code for each of the different classes. So they would just scan that badge, and then they would be taken to that particular class. They would be able to toggle between the two.
Thank you. A question I just saw
Mhm.
from Wendy is, do you recommend this be used in addition to Google Classroom or as a replacement?
Absolutely not. I don't recommend using the two. I think two platforms is too much. So Google, this is specifically for K through 2, this is the platform you want to use. Google Classroom is great once kids start typing, but Google Classroom doesn't have embedded video like this. It doesn't have the audio and drawing tools. I actually think that this is, if you want multimedia interactive activities for your students, Seesaw is the platform to go. I think it's perfect for K through, actually K through 3. But Google Classroom is definitely preferable once your students start, responding in, typed paragraphs or typed pages, and they're much more fluid and comfortable with Google Slides and Google Docs. But for K2, just stick with Seesaw.
And then can older than second grade students use the Google single sign-on option in some way rather than a QR code?
Again, I didn't look into that because I'm focusing this on K through 2, so I haven't tried it. I would say maybe. That's a question I will have to find out. I'll try it myself. But again, that would have to be, yeah, for third grade and up.
Um, and then let's see here.
I'm assuming, by the way, the answer is yes, that it will work fine. I just haven't tried it because, again, my focus is K2.
I think those were kind of the big questions that came up over and over again. You got a lot of positive
Oh,
feedback. Oh, yes,
oh, thank you.
question.
I do want to answer one question from Helen Miller. Can there be a generic sign-in, a class code? So I do want to clarify this because I've been a Seesaw user. I've had my account for several years now. And the way it would work during the typical school year is that, yes, there was just a generic one single code sign in. And then students would select their little name and icon from the menu of all the students. But because we can't monitor what they're clicking at home, and sometimes parents won't be monitoring them, for the purpose of remote learning, they've taken that option away so that each child just has their own QR code.
I would say this is the last question. Two people just asked something similar. Can we record ourselves and present lessons and read stories and then post them on Seesaw?
Yes. I believe the video limit is 5 minutes though, but yes, this is perfect. You can have a morning message every single day to your students. So in the announcements that I showed at the very beginning of the slide presentation, you can send a morning announcement, and the tool that you're going to use, because you have 6 different options, the tool that you're going to use is just a video camera that will open up on your screen, and you can send a video message to your students, or that can be used for recording lessons or recording stories. And again, I just want to reiterate too, that I've heard of teachers posting read alouds to YouTube. We cannot violate copyright. There are laws about this, and I don't want anyone to get into trouble, and maybe you never would, but that's not the point. From just integrity and honesty, honoring copyright law, we cannot just be posting read alouds of books with pages on YouTube. Seesaw is a much safer way to do it. So yes, Seesaw is the place where if you're going to do a read aloud with your students, that that would be the platform, because it's not going to be public. And let's see. The last thing I should also mention, and it's in the slide deck, there are office hours, open topic office hours every morning in Google Meet from 10 to 11. The link is in the presentation. And I'm happy to answer questions about Seesaw during that time.
And Darcy, it's 12:32 and you need to take a break.
Okay, yes, I have another meeting coming up soon. I do want to answer Katya's questions, though. Are the next 2 sessions of Seesaw Basics a repetition? Yes. So if you want to run through the entire content with me again, I will be covering the exact